I'd been working professionally as an actor for about 10 years, and one day I was at the gym and I was sharing a weight machine with this older gentleman when we got to talking, and he happened to mention he was a real estate agent. And I said, so how's business? What's the market like? And so he told me what was going on, and then he turned to me and said, so what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm an actor. And he went, oh, really? And what restaurant do you work at? One of the hardest things about having a career in show business is the fact that society in general does not understand, or in many cases value, what it is we do for a living. And to top it off, they have a skewed yardstick about what it means to be successful in our business. They think if you don't have a Broadway show, or make a movie, or have a TV series, that you're nobody, a failure, or a wannabe, or something, when the truth is far from that. But we have to deal with these feelings of insecurity and anxiety that come up when we encounter people who have these misconceptions. And in our efforts to validate ourselves, we make mistakes in our behavior or the career choices we make, or when we put our resume together. I want to go over the top 10 problems today on the actor's resume. And as we go through the list, I'll point out to you that the majority of the problems actually stem from this issue of insecurity and anxiety that we have, and our overcompensation, trying to overcome that problem. It's what I call the validation malediction. So, let's get started. Before I jump into the list, I just want to let you know that number 1 on the list is not more important than number 10. These are just the 10 biggest issues surrounding the actor's resume, okay? So the first and most obvious problem that I see on an actor's resume is that they overfill their resume. And that really is the heart of the validation problem. The issue is, I'm going to show you I'm legitimate. I'm going to put down everything that I've ever done. You'll know that I'm a real professional actor because I've done, all of these plays, and I've done all of this work and taught and have this education and so on. And what happens is, because the resume is a piece of advertising, you'll reach a point where the quantity of information on the resume will reduce the quality of its effectiveness as a piece of advertising. So you have to keep in mind that more is not always better, okay? A well-crafted resume works on multiple levels. It does multiple things. But at its core, a well-crafted resume can tell someone not only what you've done, but who you are as a type, what your essence is, and where you're going with your career. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a side effect of overfilling your resume, is that because you keep packing stuff on the resume, you keep getting smaller and smaller typeface. It goes from 12 point to 10 point to 8 point, and eventually it's unreadable because it's like reading fine print in a legal contract. One of the things that I advise actors when I do my resume class, or when I coach them and they're reworking their resume, is that one of the last steps in that process is to print out a copy and hold it at arm's length, what I call the 3-foot test of readability. If you can hold your resume out at 3 feet, more or less arm's length, and read it easily, then you're okay. But if you have to sort of work to take in the information, then you've got too much stuff on there. The fonts are too small. You need to take some stuff off to enlarge the fonts and make it more easy to read. Number 3, actors use chronological listings. Now, in a traditional business resume, you are supposed to put your work history in reverse, or I guess it's reverse chronological order, so that the last job you did is at the top of the resume and it works backwards, over time to your very first job. And because we're taught initially how to put our resume together according to the business formula, which is incorrect, we began to put our credits chronologically. Some people even put the date that they did it. In 2010 I did these 4 plays, and I worked on this movie and this TV commercial or whatever. The problem with that is that's irrelevant to the person reading it when you did it. It's about the parts, the roles, the producer, the television company, the theater you worked at. That's the important information. You should list your credits in accordance to telling that story about, this is what I've done, this is who I am. You know, you may have done Hamlet 2 or 3 years ago, but if that's the biggest credit you've got on your theater resume, it needs to be at the top of the list. All right? Not get buried underneath a succession of smaller roles after that. All right? So take out the chronological listings and begin to list your roles by their importance. 4 is, to me, this is a problem that happens with new actors, is that they, if they print their resume out on a piece of paper as opposed to the back side of the photograph, but if they print it out on that piece of paper, oftentimes they'll print the resume out on 8.5 by 11 paper, but your headshot is 8 by 10, and then they will they'll staple the paper to the back of the resume, and there's all, you know, there's this 2 edges that are hanging out the side, and nothing screams, I don't know what I'm doing here, than something like that, an obvious mistake. You need to rework the margins of the resume so when you print it out on the paper, you can chop off those 2 side edges, and your resume now fits neatly onto the back of an 8 by 10 piece of paper. Okay? 5, they list roles that they're either too young or too old to play. If you played Juliet at some point in your career, but now you're 45, it's not really relevant anymore to me, because you've moved, as a director, you've moved out of that stage. You can no longer play the young ingenue. At 45, you're playing the leading lady. So those credits are just taking up space on your resume, and they need to come off. Likewise, unfortunately, if you get out of college and you've played a lot of like old person roles, those aren't really relevant either, because if I want a 65-year-old man in my play, I will hire a 65-year-old man. All right? So they have to come off. The only caveat to that is if the role in question garnered you some kind of an award. So if you did play Juliet way back when, but you got some kind of an award for it, you might want to keep it on your resume at the bottom of your theater listings. Okay? Likewise, if you're a young actor coming out of school and you played an older role and it got some award, keep it on there. Highlight the fact that it got an award, but keep it at the bottom of your listings. That's sort of the appropriate place for something like that. But otherwise, if you're too old or too young to really play the roles anymore, they're just taking up space and they should come off. All right, number 6. Number 6 is that actors have errors and misspellings on their resume. 2 quick stories. A casting director once received a resume from an actor who claimed he could speak 7 languages fluently. Unfortunately, he misspelled the word languages. Another one was a casting director received a resume from an actress who said, or thought she had said, that she had a Bachelor of Arts degree, when, according to her resume, she had a Bachelor of Farts degree. One of the last things you should do before you mail out your resume is have somebody look it over. Make sure there's no misspellings. You know, spell check won't catch everything. You need to have a fresh pair of eyes look over your resume. Number 7, there's no focus to the resume. And this is, once again, a result of that overcompensation to seek validation. You know, if you've overfilled your resume, if you've listed things chronologically because you want to say, look, I did 5 plays last year, and you've buried the important roles, you know, into the middle of the resume, and if the font's too small, there's not going to be any focus to it. Remember, guys, that in order for the resume to do its job as a piece of advertising, which is to tell me what you've done, who you are as a type, and where you're headed with your career, in order to tell that story as a piece of advertising, it has to have the right information. And so, in order, you know, you've got to be able to fix these other problems in order to focus the resume and tell that story. Number 8, they put too much personal information on their resume. And by that I mean their home phone, their home address, and God forbid, their social security number on their resume. Never, ever, ever put that stuff on your resume. It's an accident waiting to happen, and let me tell you why. When I first got to New York years ago and started my acting career, I was walking through Midtown, and I turned the corner, and there was this homeless man who'd set up some blankets in this parking lot, and he had gone dumpster diving, and he was trying to sell what he had found, like a chair and some shoes and books and a toaster. And then off in the corner there was a stack of actor headshots and resumes for a penny apiece. Some agency had cleaned out their filing cabinet, and he'd found it, and there they were. So how would you feel if you knew that someone could get a hold of that personal information for a penny? Don't ever put that stuff on your resume. The only contact information on your resume should be your cell phone, your P.O. box if you have one, your email address, and of course if you're being represented by someone, your agent or manager, their information will go on the resume. But never put your home address, your home phone, or your social security number on your resume. Now, problem number 9 is actually the opposite of that, is that actors forget to put any information on their resume. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. Once again, this is just a mere oversight, which hopefully if you show your resume to somebody else, they'll be able to say, well, how are they going to contact you? You don't even have a phone number down here. It's a problem that happens with new actors all the time, all right? And then finally, number 10, actors lie on their resume. And once again, this is, at the heart of that validation problem we have. We want to say that we can do everything, that we are the perfect actor. We've got all these skills and credits and talents, and we should be hired, that we're the right person for the job. And but lying on your resume is dangerous, because it can be embarrassing. It can really screw up your career if you get called out on it. Now, when I say lie, by the way, I don't mean saying that you played Hamlet on Broadway. That's not the lie I'm talking about. The lies I'm talking about are when you say you can speak French fluently, when you really can't. You took it in high school. Or you can horseback ride. Well, yeah, you took some lessons a while back, but you don't do it regularly. Or that you're an actor combatant when you really just took a workshop in sword fighting. You may get the job based on something like that. That might be the one thing that's the tipping point. They say, oh, she can speak French, great. And you show up on the set that day and you're given your script in French, and suddenly, how do you say this? And when you speak it, it's not fluent. It's obvious you don't know how to do it. Even though it's said on the resume, you can speak French fluently. Those are the kinds of mistakes that will haunt you in your career if you make them, okay? Don't lie. Tell the people on the resume what it is you do and do best. And if you spoke French back in high school, maybe you should brush it up and get it to the point of being fluent. That way you can put it on your resume. All right? So there you have it, the top 10 problems with the actor's resume. Use this as a guideline when reworking your own resume, but never forget this core idea. Your resume is a piece of advertising, and a piece of advertising tells a story. In this case, it tells me not only what you've done as an actor, but who you are as a type and where you are going with your career. Okay? Now, get busy.